When you were a kid, you remember playing video games with your friends, right? What kind of games did you play? Well, if you grew up and I did, maybe it was something like Super Mario Brothers or Duck Hunt, maybe even Street Fighter 2. Remember those marathon gaming sessions that lasted all night long, taking turns against the final boss or going up against each other countless rounds in versus mode? Wasn't that awesome? If you grew up a little later, maybe you remember something like Super Smash Brothers or GoldenEye, or maybe your fondest memories are attached to the game we're taking a look at today. Strap yourselves in, viewers. This is Halo. Pretty hard pressed to find a more polarizing game series than this. On the one hand, there are people who hate this game and anyone who enjoys it. Then there are people who think this game is the absolute greatest achievement of the human race, greater than the theory of relativity, the Voyager spacecraft, and the pyramids combined. And when people like that end up growing into a military-industrial paradigm attempting to suppress antagonistic thought, well, then you have the Microsoft Army. In July of 1999, a real-time strategy game called Halo was announced for the PC and Mac. Journalists were impressed, and the developers of the game, Bungie Software, continued to tweak the engine and presentation of the game. They were eventually bought out by Microsoft, who decided to make the game an exclusive launch title for the soon-to-be-released Xbox console. When the system launched, the original concept of the game had been changed into a first-person shooter, and the subtitle Combat Evolved was added since they thought Halo alone wasn't an evocative enough name. Which is something that's always seemed strange to me. What does that title even mean? Is evolve used as an adjective or a verb? Are they saying that combat evolved, like saying Mr. Morton walked? Or does evolve describe the type of combat? In which case, shouldn't it be the other way around? Evolved combat, like guerrilla warfare? Although if you did it that way, the full title would be Halo Evolved Combat, in which people would think evolved is used as a transitive verb, and fuck it. Anyway, every game series has to start somewhere, and if Wolfenstein is the grandfather of the first-person shooter, let's say hello to the father. Let's take a look at Halo Combat Evolved. We open on a spaceship known as the Pillar of Autumn. On board, the ship's commander Keyes is talking to the ship's AI construct Cortana about an imminent attack from an alien enemy known as the Covenant. This threat is so great that they decide to unfreeze our protagonist, a genetically engineered super soldier named Master Chief.
Sorry for the quick thaw, Master Chief. Things are a little hectic right now.
You control Chief during the evacuation, and the first thing you notice is that the level design in this game is fucking lazy. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt for being the first level and all, but just take a minute to compare this level to something like Doom, a game which came out 10 years earlier. In the first level of Doom, you immediately found yourself in an open foyer with multiple offshoots you could take. A few of them were dead ends, but you immediately came across stairs, pillars, pits, pools of acid. Hell, you could even see the sky. Duke Nukem 3D is an even better example. Look at all the detail in this level. Look at all your options for how you want to get through this stage. You could climb this wall on the right, get a rocket launcher, and blow up the ticket booth. Or you could sneak in through the back and go through the theater. Or hell, you could just bypass all of that, jump on one of the aliens, and climb up to the exit 10 seconds after you started the level. But that's not really the point here, although I will be making a lot of references to these games, so get used to it. On the ship, you'll encounter two types of enemies. Covenant Elites, which I will admit actually look pretty neat, and Grunts, which are your standard cannon fodder enemies that seem to populate every game these days. They're not powerful enough to be a threat on their own, which is why they tend to attack in groups. The ship's AI is given to Master Chief for safekeeping, wanting to prevent the Covenant from learning the military secrets she holds.
If they capture her, they'll learn everything. Force deployment, weapons research, Earth.
I understand.
After you evacuate the ship, you land on Halo and finally get to see something other than gray hallways. But the linear nature of the gameplay is still present. Yeah, they attempt to give you the illusion of choice by providing different voice clips based on what you do, but do you think any of this has an effect on the gameplay? Yeah, if you wait too long after crossing the bridge, you have to fight a bunch of enemy dropship soldiers. But why then would you bother sticking around? To take in the ambience? There's nothing special around here to find, so all it does is punish people for being stupid and delaying the progression of the story. I have nothing against punishing stupid people, but it's not like there's even any challenge here or platforms to maneuver. You just press in the direction and you go. You would have to make a conscious effort to avoid doing that just to trigger the enemy dropships. Whether you deal with them or not, you're soon given another option when you find another crashed lifeboat. Yeah, they call them lifeboats even though they're in space. Go figure. Here it comes down to whether the NPC soldiers are killed by Covenant dropships or if you manage to protect them. But regardless of if they survive or not, Cortana still tells you to wait by the emergency beacon until evac arrives, so it doesn't make any significant difference. The entire game is tainted with these kind of fake options.
Stand by to evac survivors and transport them to safety.
Now, you may argue that the fact that Halo is more story-based necessitates a more linear gameplay style, and to that I say bullshit. Even in a wide open level like this, you still have a required sequence in which you're expected to do things. You need to get this key card before you can go through this door, or hit this switch before you take this elevator. Thus, the game still has a definable linear progression while still giving you the enjoyment of exploration and puzzle solving. Halo's level progression is just so begrudgingly lazy. Almost every stage in this game is essentially one long hallway that you have to take all the way to the end. Oh no, the door just got blown up? I guess you have to go around. Gee, it's almost like the developers planned it that way or something. Or what if, bear with me for a second, you actually had a choice? What if the door didn't blow up? Instead, you could go through the door and face heavy opposition from enemies. They all know you're coming, so they have the initiative. But if you're confident in your abilities, you could survive. Or if you're not so confident in your abilities, you could take the long way around. Sneak in through the air ducts, take an extra minute or so, and drop down behind the enemies while they're focused on the door. It takes you a little longer, but it gives you an advantage. And more importantly, it actually makes your choices matter. In the long run, you've gotten through this room of enemies and killed them all, so you've had the same effect on the storyline, but you still had a choice when it came to how you played the game, and they were choices that mattered based on your playstyle. Instead, Halo forces you to play the game how they want you to play, turning your brain off and just going along for the ride. In terms of the single-player campaign, there were two main revolutionary mechanics in Halo. The first of which is the fact that you can only carry 2 weapons at a time. You can pick up ammo by running over a weapon you already have, or you can drop one you're carrying to pick up a new one. You have a good selection of both human and Covenant weapons to choose from, but at any point in the game you can only have a maximum of 2 weapons. The other revolutionary mechanic was Master Chief's recharging shield that takes the majority of any damage, and if you don't die, you basically return to full health. This reduces the game arc to such a short cycle you don't have to expend as much thought or energy considering which of your 7 available weapons is best for the situation, or beyond that, which of your resources you should try to conserve. None of your resources carry over from one level to the next, and even within the level, your main worry is only whether you beat a particular battle or not, and not how efficiently you do so. Your stats and resources are reset to square one every 5 minutes anyway, so you almost never have to start a level over because you used too much of your ammo early on. Games like Doom and Duke Nukem force you to budget your supplies carefully. If you wasted all your BFG energy on weaker enemies, you had nobody to blame but yourself when you have to fight a cyber demon with just your fists. It was your responsibility to plan ahead and be as reckless or conservative as you want. Halo doesn't have any of this. Even the prospect of taking a weapon from early in the level and using it later is frowned upon, because it's generally in your best interest to use whichever weapons the enemies are using, just so you'll be able to refill your ammo. The only time when it really becomes a possibility is in the Truth and Reconciliation level, when they give you 3 times as much ammo for your sniper rifle as you can otherwise hold. After scouring the crash site for survivors, you intercept a message from the Covenant.
New traffic on the Covenant BattleNet. I found Captain Keyes.
You discover that the captain has been captured and is being held on one of the alien ships, the Truth and Reconciliation. Why would an alien ship have an English name? I don't know. How come a genetically engineered super soldier that can flip a tank can't carry more than 2 weapons? You take a small group of soldiers with you and attempt to board the ship, which is met with understandable opposition. Probably the most annoying aspect of the game is the fact that the developers put in a bunch of bullshit game lengthening tactics. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Chief, the doors have shorted out. I'm gonna have to open up this panel and reroute the electrical bypass technobabble manually. I need you to stay in this one room for 5 minutes while aliens chew on your ass. Has that cliche ever been fun in any game?
Decontamination sequence activated. Please stand by.
Okay, I am on my way. ETA 15 minutes.
Cover me, Gordon. I've got to reset the portal.
Of course, this game takes that cliche to an entirely new level, when it starts sending waves of enemies at you when you're not even trying to do anything time-sensitive.
Alert! Covenant dropships are inbound.
It's like some sort of sick joke the developers are playing on you. Yeah, you think you cleared out all the enemies? You think you're done? Well, fuck you! Here's some more! These enemies in particular are called hunters, and for an amorphous congregation of alien snakes, they sure look a lot like giant elites with bigger spikes. Once you take them out, you take the gravity lift onto the enemy ship. Hey, Covenant guys, the soldiers who just killed like 40 of your men are coming up. You sure you don't want to just turn that thing off? Yeah, right now would be a good time. They'd fall to their death and everything. Fine, don't listen to me. Why don't you continue broadcasting on an unencrypted channel while you're at it? Well, at least tell me you're going to have an army of soldiers ready to blow them to bits as soon as they get
No
up.
Covenant defenses detected.
Ugh. But no, it turns out they actually have stealth elites with cloaking devices, who have the genius plan of yelling first, and then running up to attack you with a short-range melee weapon after they've given away their position.
No Covenant. You had to open your mouth.
+1 for the idea, -10 for the execution. You work your way through the ship, taking out some more of these little annoying buggers. And this is where the game actually starts giving you puzzles.
We could use the side passages to find a way around.
Of course, I use that term very loosely if you can define a puzzle as, go the long way around this door and head toward the clearly marked waypoint on your HUD. Although I suppose a waypoint is a necessity when every hallway looks exactly the fucking same. Let's play a game for a bit. Here are 3 screenshots from different points in the campaign. Let's see if you can put them in the right order. For comparison, let's use another popular game as a control. Answers at the end of the video. When you reach the brig, you discover that these aliens like to use large holographic control panels to lock their prison cells, because... future. After freeing the captain, Cortana analyzes the still unencrypted Covenant BattleNet and discovers that Halo is considered a weapon, with power capable of being used to control the universe.
According to the data in their networks, the ring has some kind of deep religious significance. If I'm analyzing this correctly, they believe that Halo is some kind of weapon, one with vast, unimaginable power.
As you fight your way back out, you'll never guess what you have to do.
Air support is cut off, Captain. We need to hold here until she can move in.
Oh man, we're trapped in here. We're screwed. We're screwed, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
You escape the ship and head out in search of the Silent Cartographer. It's a map room, but they don't call it a map room because... future. The Silent Cartographer tells you the location of Halo's control room and you set off toward there. But you don't count on the evil Covenant doing something as evil as locking the door. So now you're forced to go around the complete other side of the island, crawling with elites and grunts. After backtracking about 3 times, you finally make it to the map room, which is surprisingly anticlimactic.
Halo's control center is located there. That structure appears to be some sort of temple or shrine, if I've interpreted this correctly.
Getting out of the map room, on the other hand, is... well, it's more backtracking. Not like we didn't see this coming. But you know it's supposed to be exciting because the theme music starts up. I haven't really said anything about the music, but I guess it does deserve some sort of mention. It's not terrible. It certainly does a good job of providing a memorable hook. But ask yourself, for the most part, does this music really sound like it goes with a video game called Halo? You can pretty much go with any big summer action blockbuster. From here, the group heads underground for... well, why don't you take a wild guess what comes next? Given everything we've seen from this game up until now, what do you think this level is going to entail? Sure, why not? Fuck this game. I'm not even halfway through this game and already it's repetitive as hell. Not only is every indoor map a meandering array of identical corridors and elevators, they don't even try to disguise that fact with different lighting or textures. Were they trying to save on disk memory or something? I'm sure this is a great way to impress people with your state-of-the-art new debut console. Ethnic cleansing had better level design than this. Show me something new! Okay, that was kind of cool. Actually, this is by far the longest level in the game, and it's pretty good about giving you options in terms of how you want to deal with your enemies. Especially when it comes to stealing vehicles and using them for your own purposes. Once you get to the middle of the level, you come across a Scorpion tank, which is the only time you get to use it in the entire game, and while you are, you're pretty much invincible. Sure, your passengers can die, but they don't do anything anyway. But when the enemies are practically no threat to you and you can't die, what's the purpose of this entire section? It might as well be a cutscene. If I didn't have to steer, I'd let Odo play. Eventually, you make it to Halo's control room, and Cortana's news is not good.
The Covenant found something. Buried in this ring, something horrible, and now they're afraid.
Something buried? Where?
The captain. We've got to stop the captain.
Keys?
The weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
She sends you off to warn Captain Keyes without telling you what the secret of Halo even is. You want to know? You really want to know? Most of you already know. It's an alien race called the Flood. Now this is where the game gets the most interesting, but also the most frustrating. The Flood are the same kind of generic infection-type alien parasites you've seen in every work of science fiction. They're the Yerks, they're head crabs, they're the Thing, they're the Black Ooze, they're Las Plagas. You've seen these things a million times before, and they're just as annoying as ever. As you're exploring the ruins of Key's last known location, you come across another AI construct named 343 Guilty Spark, who explains that he needs your help to contain the Flood and teleports you to... the most obnoxious and tedious level in the entire fucking game. Seriously, even fans of this series absolutely hate the library. You may have thought I was exaggerating when I said this game's levels consist of nothing but recurring corridors and elevators, but that's exactly what this stage is. Sparky leads you through, constantly requiring you to backtrack or hold off the Flood for X amount of time until he returns.
Security lock. Wait here.
He's so smug about it too, he doesn't even seem to realize you're in the middle of a war zone. After fighting your way through 4 fucking floors of this, you eventually reach the bottom and retrieve the index. Finally, after all this shit, let's take this thing and get the hell... Hey, get that back!
Protocol requires that I take possession of the index for transport. Your organic form renders you vulnerable to infection.
Well, if you didn't need me to carry it, why the fuck did you call me all the way down here for?
Please control your temper.
Fuck you. You take the index back to the control room, but before you can activate it, Cortana stops you.
Do you have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
Yes. Activate Halo's defenses and destroy the Flood.
The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life.
Is it true?
More or less.
That's not going to happen.
So be it. Save his head. Dispose of the rest.
So now the Covenant wants to kill you, the Flood wants to kill you, the Infected want to kill you, and Halo Security Sentinels want to kill you. Today has not been a good day. Hoping to prevent Halo from activating, Cortana suggests detonating the crashed Pillar of Autumn to destroy the ring.
I haven't located the crash site yet, but we need to buy some time.
But before you can do that, you have to take out the 3 pulse generators that allow Halo to use its life-eliminating abilities.
If we damage or destroy these generators, the monitor will need to repair them before Halo can be used. That should buy us some time.
Thankfully, the 10,000-kilometer ring keeps all 3 of its pulse generators in adjacent canyons, so a single focused attack on a relatively small area can completely cripple the structure. After blowing up all 3 identical pulse generators in identical ways in an area that's identical to Chapter 5's map, Cortana teleports you to the crashed Pillar of Autumn. But you can't detonate the ship without Key's access codes, which means, that's right, having to fight your way through a series of identical hallways and wave after wave of annoying enemies.
We represent the Lollipop Guild!
But when you finally come across Keyes, you discover it's too late.
No human life signs detected. The captain, he's one of them. Done. I have the code.
Ah, don't you just love it when everything from AI constructs to power armor helmets to neural implants use the exact same interface jacks? I wish my USB devices were that compatible. After fighting your way out of the most ludicrously hard Flood and Covenant resistance of the game, you steal a Banshee and get the hell out of there. Back on the Pillar of Autumn, because, yeah, we loved playing through this level so much the first time, Cortana is uploaded back into the computer and initiates the self-destruct sequence.
There. That should give us enough time to make it to a lifeboat and put some distance between ourselves and Halo before the detonation.
But unfortunately, an old friend drops by to pester them.
I'm afraid that's out of the question, really.
Oh, hell.
Captain Blue Balls discovers the wealth of knowledge contained in the ship and deactivates the self-destruct sequence. Cortana can't restart it, so it's up to you to detonate the reactor core manually. After a few grenades, Cortana calls for evac, and you have, I'll admit, a pretty fun escape sequence. After 6 levels of facing these flood buggers, it really is cathartic just to be able to run the bastards over. But once you reach the ship, that's it. No end boss, just the time to escape on the Warthog. Cortana and Chief are the only survivors.
Halo. It's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.
And with that, the game ends. If I can be perfectly honest, this was the hardest review I've ever had to write. If you look at a game like Ethnic Cleansing or even Arctic Tail, there are things that leap out immediately as being ungodly horrible. Racism, brain-dead gameplay, horrible graphics, $15 for 2 levels. But Halo is a completely different beast. There are certainly good aspects of the game. In a genre predominantly populated by Nazis, zombies, and indescribable demonic abominations, Halo has a lot of really interesting creature and vehicle designs with a multitude of fluid animations. The enemy AI is actually rather challenging at times, as they will attempt to flank you, dodge out of the way of your shots, and even fire wildly when killed, hoping to get at least one more hit with their dying breath. There are times when the game is genuinely exciting and almost overwhelmingly so. But once you've played for about an hour, you've pretty much seen everything the game has to offer. And from that point on, all you're doing is going through the motions to the end. The only thing keeping you invested is the story, and let's be honest, this isn't Moby Dick here. It's not worth having to wade through hour after hour of identical hallways and repetitive alien firefights just to finish it. You could be doing worse things with your time, sure, but you could be doing better things as well. Just in terms of video games, there are so many that are more rewarding and enjoyable than Halo. So why do people obsess over this series so much? I suppose for a lot of gamers, this was their introduction to video games. Not Super Mario Brothers or Pong or Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. This was the game that introduced them to the awesomeness of that flickering hypnotic box that responded to your button presses. Halo marked a turning point in video games. You saw echoes of this with Final Fantasy VII in 1997. Halo was an accessible shooter, a game that anyone and everyone could and did enjoy. In particular, people praise the multiplayer, but when most people remember this game with fondness, they're not really remembering the game. They're remembering the fun they had playing it with other people and the welcoming subculture associated with it. The multiplayer in this game is nothing special. We've seen stuff like this on the PC years before. Halo was not revolutionary in any technical aspect, but merely in a social aspect. While there were games far more impressive on the PC, Halo was the first one to grow immensely popular in the console community, primarily for the multiplayer. All you had to do was plug in 4 controllers and play. You didn't have to set up networks or run Ethernet cables or type in IP addresses. Less time messing with logistics, more time playing the game. I suppose that's the best way to define Halo. This is a game that caters to people who don't want to waste their time thinking. They just want to have fun without the investment of learning complex controls, leveling up characters, reading walls of text, or searching maps for the next unmarked objective. With the accessibility of this game, it's easy to see how it became a viable choice for an evening activity. Instead of getting together to drink beer and watch football, people would get together to drink beer and play Halo. It was fun, and you can't really fault people for wanting to have a good time, but like other fads, Halo was only on top for a few years. Once Halo 2 came out, nobody was really playing the first anymore. Same story with Halo 3 and ODST and Reach. The popularity of the franchise is only linked to the fickleness of its fans, who seem to only be interested in it until something bigger and better came along. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Battlefield, Resistance. As soon as the next big title comes out, nobody cares about the old one. Which I suppose is the one remarkable thing to say about Halo is that it started this craze. In a sea of generic, ephemeral, and throwaway first-person shooters, Halo came out at a time when the public wasn't sick of them yet, and I think that's what it's most remembered for. Perhaps you love it because of that, or perhaps you hate it for creating what the genre has become. Personally, I have played better games, and there is no reason for me to come back to this one. But I have a message out there for those who think this is the best gaming has to offer. Whether you enjoy it for the social aspect, or legitimately enjoy the story, I implore you, branch out! There are hundreds, if not thousands of games that are amazingly fun if you just give them a try. Even in other genres outside of first-person shooters. Games like Magicka, Mario Party, Rock Band, Minecraft, Dwarf Fortress, World of Warcraft, Super Monkey Ball, Dokapon Kingdom, Castle Crashers, Team Fortress, Fallout, Skyrim, Spelunky, the list goes on and on and on. Why would you commit yourselves to a single mediocre franchise when there is an entire world of games out there for you? Venture outside your comfort zone once in a while, and maybe you'll find something that surprises even you. And even if you hate it, at least then you'll know. And I can respect you for trying something new. Until then, viewers, this is Zero, and I'll see you on the next broadcast from the Video Game Bunker.
Gentlemen, this is the reason why I've called you here today. This is our target. He identifies himself only as Zero. For the past 12 months, he's been broadcasting from an undisclosed underground location known only as the Video Game Bunker. All efforts to trace the source of the broadcast has failed, as he seems to be using some sort of advanced encryption and scrambling technology. In the past, he has shown himself to be a conscientious ally, tearing down such targets as Sonic the Hedgehog, Castlevania, and Twisted Metal. However, things have begun to escalate. As you may remember from May of last year, he voiced his support for the most wretched thing to ever be spewed out of the bowels of a Nintendo boardroom, Super Mario Bros. The movie. In response, we have raised the price on his head to 640,000 Microsoft points for anyone who can bring in the trailer alive. Unfortunately, our efforts have proven unsuccessful, and the reward remains unclaimed. However, while he has been a little more than a mild nuisance, his most grievous crime was just committed today, as we were forced to watch helplessly, as he publicly denounced the proven fact that Halo is the greatest game series ever created. While we used to think that his broadcast was somewhat entertaining, as he bashed terrible Wii and PlayStation games, his most recent efforts have gone too far. We will not let these crimes stand. We will not rest until Zero is brought in and put on trial. He hides in a hole because he's afraid. He keeps his identity secret because he's a coward. We are the Microsoft Army. And Zero is nothing.